Is capital punishment ever justified, or is it just simply a barbaric holdover from the Middle Ages? Well, Proposition 34 would end the death penalty here in California, replace it with life in prison without parole.
And what is it to decide to judge someone on their worst moment anyway? Even if you are guilty, how can you say that that person's life is only as good as their worst moment? That they have nothing else, no other right to be, nothing else on the planet that they could need to fulfill.
My name is Mike Seltzer. I'm on death row at Oklahoma State Penitentiary. My number is 91854.
The death penalty is the crowning glory of the tough on crime mantra. But I just have this sense that it's wrong to murder someone for murdering someone else. Where does it stop?
We're the first visitors Mike's spoken with in the past 10 years. He admits that he killed somebody, and as you may expect, he doesn't support capital punishment.
I don't think a government, no matter what form, capitalist, socialist, or communist, should have this kind of power over its subjects, because this is making the government a demigod or a god status to have the power of life and death over an individual.
You've said that this shouldn't be about the money, and I think that if you sort of step back from it, you're talking about taking someone's life, and they've done something terrible, but you're taking their life, so there's obviously a moral issue here. But why really do we want to have the death penalty? It's just so that we have one penalty beyond something like, you know, life without parole. That sounds pretty awful, dying in prison.
One thing is certain. By executing Tim McVeigh, he didn't do anything else to hurt other people.
Frank Keating served as Oklahoma governor from 1995 to 2003. Before Keating came to office, the state had killed 3 people since the death penalty was reinstated in 1977. While in office, Keating oversaw 54 executions.
The reality is, if someone kicks in my front door and they want to kill me and my family, I defend myself, my family, and I kill them. It's no different. In effect, the state is stepping in your shoes and saying, you've done it once, we're not going to let you do it again.
Whatever you think about capital punishment, and if you think that our government has the right to kill its citizens or not, I just want to throw out there the idea that there is no such thing as a system that can accurately determine the guilty from the innocent.
Any recommendation, unless it had to do with guilt or innocence, I ignored. I always brought the defense attorney in, the prosecutor in. The question I asked was, did this person do it? In no case was the answer no.
There is no such thing as a system. And all you have to do is walk about 5 inches through that Civil Rights Museum, and you can see what the system does to people who are poor, to people who are not the right color at the right place at the right time. And you know, that shit hasn't changed. And so basically, even if you support capital punishment as an idea, which I personally happen to think murder is murder, whether it's done by a government.
The violence in the African American community is a humiliation and an embarrassment to the African American community, but it does exist. Nearly 60% of those executed are white people. So it's not a situation of African Americans or other minorities are singled out for death.
I think especially if it's done by a government, you know? I mean, if you're poor and you're strung out on something and you never had shit all your life and you're really fucking pissed off and you're like flying through a convenience store making the worst decision you ever made, that's one thing. But when you're sitting in a fancy office signing, say, what was it that fucking George Bush signed 130 death warrants in his short time as Texas governor? Or am I getting that confused with the $130 million he bought his way into the presidency with? I don't know.
All right, well, let me ask you both this. You know, it's the case that we haven't been executing the prisoners on death row. And so why is that? That suggests to me that there's already something wrong with this system. And what is it? Is it simply the appeal process? Is that broken? Or is it that we just have some moral reluctance to actually carry out the death penalty?
20 years ago, I helped create a gang called the Crips. Today, I'm speaking to you from death row. I never imagined that the Crip gang would spread throughout California, throughout the nation, throughout the world. And I deeply regret the legacy that it left, because it left a legacy of genocide, black-on-black genocide. And I apologize for my part in it.
In the beginning, when you first met Stanley Williams, you didn't know if he was guilty or innocent, but then later, currently, you believe he's innocent.
That's correct.
What information did you learn that the average person may not know, where you went from not knowing to he's innocent?
Okay. Well, there was physical evidence, but it wasn't Stan's.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stanley Tookie Williams, and I'm speaking to all of you from San Quentin's death row, where I've been residing for more than 23 years. It was during solitary confinement from 1988 to 1994 when I began to undergo years of educating myself, soul searching, spiritual cultivation, and self-edification, which in turn led to my redemptive transition. It was by virtue of this ongoing process that I earned the right to both live redemption and to speak on it, even at the risk of being rejected and repudiated by the world.
Stanley Tookie Williams is a reputed founder of the violent Crips gang and was convicted of no less than 4 murders.
During his 24 years in prison, Williams wrote several children's books about the dangers of gangs, trying to discourage young people from a life of violence. His work earned him 6 nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize.
California's Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger chose not to spare his life, saying Williams had murdered without remorse and that the continued pervasiveness of gang violence leads one to question the efficacy of Williams' message. So what does that mean?
Kill that son of a bitch! It's showtime.
Clemency is rare, and as much as anything, a political liability.
Clemency can be seen when it's exercised by a governor as a sign of weakness or not being tough on one of the country's supposedly great social issues.
Well, there has not been an execution since 2006, and that's because of legal proceedings. The federal judge found that it was unconstitutional in the way it was administered. People weren't trained properly. There was documented evidence that the drugs were administered improperly. And there was a second ruling in state court that the state had violated the Administrative Procedures Act in presenting the regulations to perform the executions.
Well, there's a strict ritual to executions here at San Quentin, but early this morning, everything did not go precisely as planned.
It went a long time. They seemed to have trouble finding his veins, and he appeared to grow frustrated. A guard read the death warrant, and the lethal drugs started to flow. He tried to keep his head up, then laid it back down forever.
Listen to me very carefully, okay? You're not a Terminator anymore, all right? You got that? You just can't go around killing people.
Why?
What do you mean, why? 'Cause you can't.
Why?
Because you just can't, okay? Trust me on this.
Is this a matter of revenge, the death penalty, or is it justice? Because, I mean, it's one thing in the abstract to argue that you think that this is, this is just not the way humans should behave toward other humans. And I can have a certain sympathy. I mean, I can understand that argument. But, I can also understand that if it were your child that were raped and murdered, wouldn't you want the death penalty as punishment as a parent?
Bullshit. There's no such thing as closure. What is closure? Justice. Same thing. Happy word. Makes me feel good. Closure. You don't get over it. You learn how to handle it.
Carol Anderson handled the death of her daughter, Laurel Lee, in a very different manner. She was kidnapped, along with one of her friends, by 2 men that robbed them, locked them in the trunk, and drove them to a remote area of the state.
You know, I think what these parents want, and really the victims need to be the center of this conversation, and there is nothing that can be said or done that can ever fill the hole that a parent must feel for the loss of a child, or a child must feel for the loss of a parent. But killing another person, we have found time and time again, when you go back to the victims years later, even months later, they say, it did not give me peace. It did not give me the closure that I was promised. It's really a false promise to many of these victims because they believe that something will come out of it that it won't.
We were fortunate enough to get him executed, and I say that because we didn't need him on this earth again to do that to somebody else.
They all come to the hospital, they got killed.
Edith Scholes felt the same way about the man who shot her daughter, Lordette. They were on the phone with each other when 18-year-old Eric Berry walked up to the phone booth and shot Lordette 3 times in the back.
So naturally, I wanted him to die. And that's what I would talk with the DA at the time. I said, I want him to die. I don't want I think he should just go to the electric chair or whatever y'all do to kill him and do that, you know.